Hi, my name is Kevin Flesch, and I'm an attorney in the metro area. I have offices in Denver and Inglewood, and many times folks ask me what should they do when they get pulled over and they believe they're impaired by alcohol. The first thing you have to remember is when an officer is near your driver's door of your car, they're investigating a crime. They're looking for evidence as to whether or not you're impaired. So try to speak to the officer as briefly as possible. They're looking for things like bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, alcohol, the actual smell of alcohol. And so whatever you can do to minimize your interaction with the officer, you should do that. You should have your driver's license and insurance available once that officer comes to your car door, and then make sure that that interaction is as brief as possible. But if the officer believes that there's some sort of impairment that's going on with you, the next thing you want to do is minimize the amount of evidence that they can garner from you. So that includes, they're going to be asking you whether or not you want to take voluntary roadside maneuvers. Those roadside maneuvers at the car are voluntary. You do not have to take those. I would advise you not to take them. The next thing would be is whether or not the officer believes he has probable cause to arrest you for an alcohol-related offense. If the officer does, he will. And if the officer arrests you, then he's going to ask you whether or not you want a breath or blood test. My experience within the last year or so relating to the testing of blood, that's the choice that I would make, because you can get that blood retested. Breath analyzation does not get retested later. So if you get a blood sample, you'll be able to get your own lab and get it resampled. That's something that you should do if you're put into that situation. If you refuse either a breath or blood test, you will lose your driver's license. Now, you're not giving the officer that additional evidence that they need to prove that you're impaired, but you will lose your license up to a year. Those are things to consider when deciding whether or not to comply with the officer and his requests. Give me a call if you ever have any questions. We have free consultations.